CBC's Steven D'Souza is also looking through these newly released documents, and he joins me now from Toronto. So, Steven, there's some talk of Anthony Smith in this wiretap document.
That's right, and Anthony Smith, you'll recall, is one of the men pictured in that infamous photo now of Rob Ford in front of what police described as the crack house. And Anthony Smith was killed at the end of March, and there's always been rumors about the motive behind that killing and whether or not he was involved in this scandal somehow, and whether or not the mayor was in fact involved somehow in the death of Anthony Smith. And we can tell now a lot of those rumors came from an interview given by David Price, one of the mayor's former staffers, a discussion he had with the mayor's chief of staff at the time, Mark Toohey, where he told him that he believed Anthony Smith was killed because the infamous crack video was on Anthony Smith's phone, and that David Price believed that the motive for Anthony Smith's murder was that the fact that he had the video on his phone. But we can tell you that in these documents released today, that police say that that theory was not correct, and in fact that was not the motive for Anthony Smith's murder.
Well, that's right, Steven. I've just gone through a portion of these documents, and it says right here, this theory is not correct based on previous interceptions relevant to the murder of Smith. But what more leads police to believe that the theory is not correct? Do we know?
Well, what they say is that when Anthony Smith was murdered on March 28th, that Project Traveler, this, really the result of all these wiretaps was well underway, and one of the men who was also shot that night, Mohammed Khattak, was being monitored, and Anthony Smith's phone was being picked up as he called other people who were being monitored by these wiretaps. And they were at a club, and at one point Anthony Smith talked to another individual, and he saw some people in the club that he had a beef with, or they had a dispute with, and he was given orders by another individual that the other gentleman was halal meat, and in the terms of the street, he was basically a dead man. And so Anthony Smith was actually at that club with orders to kill somebody, and what turns out is that he left the club, and he himself was shot. And the key in all of this is that according to these documents, the motive, according to the wiretaps, was in fact a robbery that had taken place. Anthony Smith and another gentleman had robbed somebody in November of last year, and they believe that dispute was what led to the shooting of Anthony Smith the night in that club. And so it has nothing to do with the alleged crack video, nothing to do with the mayor, simply to do with the beef between gang members that ended up in the shooting of Anthony Smith in the club that night.
So perhaps some clarification on that, as you say, rumor. Thanks so much, Steven. That's Steven D'Souza in Toronto for us.